Well, hey guys, welcome to the studio. Today we want to talk about really big guitar tones and how we can get them to fit in our mix. And we're going to talk to three different people about this. Three guitar players: a beginner guitar player, an expert guitar player, and a monster engineer. We're in the DAW, guys. I had planned to show them all the same thing and get their feedback on it. Let me show you what we have. Four guitar tracks. Now there's a lot of flexibility built into this. What I'm able to do, I have the dark blue is the four guitar tracks. It's based on two recordings, a left and a right. Each one was then duplicated, so that's how I ended up with four tracks off this, but they're all processed differently. The four guitar tracks live 1, 2, 3, and 4 here. Ignore the two on the left, those are the drums. 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to listen to each one individually. As you can see, we had a great deal of flexibility in those four tracks, from a very boomy, bassy type of thing to a very kind of muted but still kind of bassy kind of track, and then another track that really favored the mid-range and another track that really favored the highs. It was almost like having a four-band EQ. But how did we do it? So to start with, we're going to look at the left guitar track EQ'd so that we're only hearing the bass. I also am getting distortion from Guitar Rig 6 on all four of these tracks. But let's listen to how this EQ setting affects what we're hearing. So it's set only to provide us with the thump, thump, thump. That's going to be our first guitar track. For our second guitar track, we actually did just duplicate the same exact recording, ran it through its own instance of Guitar Rig 6 on some kind of overdrive setting. But check out the EQ on here. Nothing but highs coming through. Let's listen to what this one does. Of course, I can put that bass back in. But around 500 hertz, I'm cutting out everything below that and only allowing the treble. Now, with just these two tracks, the boomy half of the same track and the trebly half of the same track, I can do something pretty cool. Here's the low half, here's the high half, and I can blend these almost like bass and treble, like having an EQ. Let's head over to the other recording, playing the same thing, what we're calling the right track. And again, this track was duplicated to two separate tracks and affected differently. As you can see here, again, another instance of Guitar Rig 6 and an EQ that goes almost all the way down into the bass. This is almost a completely full range track on it. But we are letting some of the bass through on this track. And finally, our fourth guitar track, which is a duplicate of the one that you just heard, but only allowing highs to come through. Now keep in mind, we're really only using the EQ to filter out either to allow bass or not allow it, or to allow treble or not allow it. We do have the option to go through and sculpt these further if we would like to. But other than the filtering, we're pretty much leaving the EQs alone. And here we can see all four of the tracks, starting on track 3, 4, 5, and 6, the bass and the trebly one from the left side, and then sort of the full range and sort of the very trebly one from the right side, what we're calling it. Don't look where they're panned. Okay, let's start, say, with the lows. Same track, highs. The other track. And just by fiddling with the volumes of those four controls, we're really able to sculpt a pretty dramatic big guitar.
Basically, what it amounts to, from what I can see, and this is a really cool thing, you split up whatever signal you've got into however many bands. You're talking about a multi-band.
Yeah, it's two band a level, just
Yeah.
bass, really just bass and treble
Exactly.
on the same track. I gain other advantages too. Like if I wanted to take the lows and gate them off the kick, I can do that
Right,
without
and you can
messing with
check
how
them.
you perceive the volume of the bass.
Oh yeah.
Or if you want to make the bass pop a bit more, you could put this like a distortion on just the higher part.
As a matter of
miss the
fact,
low
he's
part.
100% correct, and I can show you this, that is exactly what you're hearing when I'm looking at this. Now, trick number one is to use a gate, and this is kind of a delicate operation because depending on where I set the threshold, it might allow too much of the signal through. It might not allow enough of it. So here we are with the gate about to come on. No gate. Gate. I'll mess with the threshold. As I raise the threshold, less of it gets through, only the very loudest peaks. As I bring the threshold back down, it will chop it up. And if I bring it too far down, it won't do anything. Where's that sweet spot? You just got to listen. We're going to shut gate off. We're going to take a look at the compressor now. And I have set the compressor to sidechain here from the kick drum itself, which is on its own channel, even though we're soloed on this guitar part. And this is going to have a similar effect to gate, but what it will do is every time it hears a kick, it will turn this track down, meaning that I can't really potentially have any conflict at all. Will you hear it happen? Well, if all I did was sidechain the entire guitar part off of the kick, every time the kick hit, the entire guitar part would turn down. But in this case, only the lows will be removed because I have all my mids and highs on other tracks. Here we are without compression. And here it is with compressed side chaining from the kick. And again, threshold. Now, even though you're not hearing the kick drum, this thing's very aware what's happening on that track, and you may see this orange line here show you the reduction in volume every time it knows that a kick hit. Here's without the compressor, and with it. Now, let me put the kick drum in the mix, and what you're going to hear is, if I do this right, every time there's a kick, that boominess goes away, but if there is no kick, the boominess stays. Let's see how it turned out. Seems to be doing its job. Now, if I blend the other part of the guitars in there, it should sound a lot more consistent. I'm going to start bringing them all in. Kick, guitar lows.
Have on this thing, the GT1.
Okay.
It's it's just like a modern metal or something like that on one side, and then on the right I have my own that's kind of a higher end, crunchier sound.
Okay.
And I just blend the two. So basically, yeah, I got a low side and then a high side, and I just blend them. So
And what do you do anything with the EQ and the DAW to kind of sculpt each one?
I do, depending on what's going on, like anything else. A lot of times I'll do a high pass on one or the other, depending on what I want to come up with. So
How about gating? Do you ever use gating as part of the preset in your GT1 or the DAW?
no, as far as there might be a gate setting. I kind of doubt it though, because I don't hear it.
Okay.
So I don't use any gates. As you were kind of going through the settings, there was a lot of, I guess, mid-high crunchy stuff that
Yeah.
I didn't particularly like. I like more low end in my distortion, kind of bassy. So that's personal taste.
Now, if you've watched this channel for a while, you may know that I do that to bass guitars all the time. I duplicate them, make one of the tracks carry just the lows and one of them just carry the highs, and I will sidechain the one with just the lows off the kick drum, and I might take the one with just the mids and the highs and run it through some kind of saturation or overdrive. And when the kick hits, it doesn't compete with the bass part of the bass, but it won't affect the mids and the highs that'll seem to have a consistent volume. It's a very powerful tool. If you've enjoyed today's show, please come join us in our Facebook group, Recording Tips. This is where we had the Zoom call that started this whole discussion. I'd love to see you there. And you could be a friend of the channel by clicking subscribe. The more subscribers we have, the easier it is for us to lure in more experts into our discussion. I had a lot of fun putting this video together today, but we got a lot of work to do. Let's get to it.